On social media, though, it could look and seem worse than it is. Like me personally, I have so many people that have reached out to me because of the videos on social media, and people just not fully grasping how big and wide and spread out California is. When you look online, it looks like it's the entire Los Angeles that's just engulfed and on the verge of be taken over by fire. And that's just not the case.
About to make it blow a bag full of cash, like turn to the side, let me see. Damn, I think we all could agree. You and your friends, I done counted 2 or 3. And you looking even better here with me. We don't need no dinner, you the no boo. Tell me where you're from, girl, is your local? Got a couple dollars we could blow through. Take a couple trips, yeah, I could show you. Jump in my Impala, get the backseat going.
That song you just heard is my new joint. It's called Blow a Bag. You can find it on all streaming platforms. Just search Hollywood Blow a Bag. Add it to your playlist. Send it to your friends. Appreciate you for listening. Let's get ready to kick off what's hot in these blogs. First things first, these wildfires that's going on in California right now, it's quite devastating for a lot of people. So many people have lost their homes, their businesses, schools. This thing is just, it's not uncommon in California to have wildfires. I've been here 4.5 years now, and there's been a few in that time frame of me being here. It's not ever something that you get used to. And because fire is so unpredictable, you never know how it's gonna go. These latest fires started from these what they call Santa Ana winds that we got last week. And Santa Ana winds is basically strong, extremely dry winds that come from like the coast of Southern California. The gusts were like up to 100 miles per hour, no exaggeration at times. So with these winds and you got all of this dry vegetation happening, that's like Mother Nature taking 2 sticks and rubbing them together real hard and sparking up a fire. And then the wind is gonna blow it and carry it. And we end up with what we have been seeing these past couple of days. The Pacific Palisades is one of the largest amount in terms of acres that has been burning so far. Over 23,000 acres for the Palisades fire. Is only 11% contained right now. 5 deaths from that one, and over 5,000 structures have been destroyed. Now the Eaton fire, that's in San Gabriel County. It affects the area called Altadena, where there's a lot of regular everyday folks that live there. Over 14,000 acres have been burnt in the Eaton fires, 27% contained, and approximately over 7,000 structures are believed to be damaged or destroyed. 11 deaths in the Eaton fires. Those are the 2 major big ones that still actively causing damage as we speak. But there was also Kenneth Hills fires that happened. That's closer to Calabasas, but that one, they kind of contained it rather quickly. There was another fire, Hearst fire, that happened in an area called Sylmar, and that is mostly contained at this point. But yeah, Palisades and the Eaton fires are still currently burning. The latest, it seems that they're getting a hold on them, and they have some help now. They have firefighters that have flown in from Mexico and Canada that's here to help, because the firefighters here were spread so thin trying to combat these fires, but they have some assistance now. The National Guard has been deployed to help out, doing what they need to do to try to get it done. On social media, though, it could look and seem worse than it is. Like me personally, I have so many people that have reached out to me because of the videos on social media, and people just not fully grasping how big and wide and spread out California is. When you look online, it looks like it's the entire Los Angeles that's just engulfed and on the verge of be taken over by fire. And that's just not the case. There are a lot of areas that aren't affected, thankfully, by these fires. But like I mentioned before, they're unpredictable. And right now the winds are died down, but they're expected to kick back up tonight. So, you know, it's still a challenge until they get it contained. It's going to be quite a challenge for the first responders and the firefighters. Some misinformation that's going on regarding these California wildfires. that I want to go over some of them. These are straight from the governor here, Governor Gavin Newsom. He had to put out some fact checking regarding the California wildfires because people were saying that there were cuts, and due to the budget cuts, they're blaming that as the reason why these fires are as out of hand as they are. And first thing with that is on Tuesday, January 7th, when these fires first began, because the winds were so high, they couldn't use air support to combat them like they would normally do. So with not having that air support, it allowed the fire to get more out of hand than maybe it wouldn't have if they were able to have that air support. So there's that. So a lot of people were trying to blame the mayor here, Mayor Karen Bass, for that. And it's like, that's not something that she should be at fault for. Now, Gavin Newsom, he tweeted out, he said, a lot of misinformation out there. Just launched a new site to ensure the public has access to fact-based data around the Southern California wildfires. The truth, California did not cut our firefighting budget. We have nearly doubled the size of our firefighting army and built the world's largest aerial firefighting fleet. California has increased forest management tenfold since we took office. There was a rumor that California ran out of water and the reservoirs are empty. And that's simply not true. The fact is, water in the reservoirs in Southern California are at record levels. There are no shortage of water in Southern California. The fact is, wildland firefighters don't use hydrants. They use water tenders, and that is what they've used to ensure continued water access. 3 million gallons of water were stored in 3 large tanks for fire hydrants in the area before the Palisades fire. But the supply was exhausted because of the extraordinary nature of this firestorm. The death toll right now stands at 16, and one death is one too many, right? But listen to this tweet or whatever you call them on this Truth Social platform that 4547 put out. He said the fires are still raging in LA. The incompetent POLs, whatever that is, have no idea how to put them out. Thousands of magnificent houses are gone and many more will soon be lost. There is death all over the place. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the history of our country. They just can't put out the fires. What's wrong with them? To say there's death all over the place, you would kind of paint this picture that what we're seeing in these videos with all of these structures and homes being burnt, that it included people and residents, and that's just not true. You just gotta be careful with what you see online and don't believe everything that you see online, every video, especially nowadays with AI. Is like, you really gotta be super cautious about what you believe in and seeing on video, but that's where we are right now. You even have, which I found super irresponsible and dangerous. There's a congressman in Ohio, a Republican congressman. His name is Warren Davidson. And he is implying that the government should stop aid for California for these wildfires. This is the type of behavior that we're going to have to deal with this incoming administration. And right now, Biden is still president for a couple more days, and he's putting certain executive measures in place to help California. But it just makes me think, like, what is going to happen moving forward when you have somebody like 4547 who clearly has it out for Newsom? He clearly doesn't care for him. So when a disaster happens in the future in California, how would that look with that new administration in office? I'm curious to know. That is scarier than these fires almost, because who's to say that California is going to get the aid they need? So that's alarming for sure. Another piece of misinformation out there is that it's all celebrities and wealthy people who have lost their houses. And that's just simply not true. There's a lot of everyday working class people who have lost their homes, particularly in the Eaton fires in the Altadena area. A lot of them people work regular jobs and just, may have had these homes for years, and they've lost everything. So it's not just the rich and famous. Someone said Altadena was a historical Black area too. Yeah, that's true. One good thing that's coming out of this in terms of the insurance part, the California Insurance Commissioner, his name is Ricardo Lara, he has issued a 1-year moratorium on insurance companies. And this is basically going to stop them from, for up to a year, being able to cancel people's fire insurance. And he's actually calling for the companies who have canceled people's insurance already over the last 90 days to reverse that. So that's definitely a good look, because it is unfair and unfortunate that people are paying into these insurance companies for years. I heard of a family who, they were elderly and they were paying into this insurance for probably 50 years and just had the insurance for the fire coverage canceled. Like, how unfair is that? So good on the commissioner, Ricardo, for setting this up, at least for the next 12 months, so that people can have one less thing to worry about. Yeah. I mean, as of right now, it just depends where you are. It seems like they are getting a hold of the bulk of the fires. They put in fire retardant around certain areas to try to contain it. And they have firefighters lined up, from what I can see on the latest coverages, lined up in place to put out any little pockets from embers that may fly. Because the winds, as I mentioned, are died down, the fire is not spreading or blowing. It's definitely looking better than it was the past couple of days, for sure. Is looking promising as of right now. And then with the aid from the Mexico firefighters and the Canadian ones that will be deployed January 13th, I believe is the date they're going to be actually out. So once they're out there, they'll be able to, like, do even more. So making progress for sure. And yeah, just got to keep the people who are affected, keep them in our thoughts and our prayers. And yeah, that's about it. We're going to move on. What else is hot in these blogs? Let's talk about Meta and their new policies that they are planning to implement right on time for the new 45-47 administration. Mark Zuckerberg, he posted a video the other day where he was going over some changes that are being made to the policies when it comes to Meta. Whatever platforms are under Meta, particularly Instagram and Facebook, because those are the ones that we use the most. These are some changes that are going to be taking effect there. So according to him, they're going to simplify content policies, and they're going to get rid of a lot of restrictions on things like immigration and gender. They're going to change how they enforce their policies. We'll start seeing a wider range of content, including controversial ones. Their hateful conduct policy has been updated, which will now allow allegations of mental illness based on gender or sexual orientation. They say they're going to focus on addressing illegal and high severity violations, like those related to terrorism, child sexual exploitation, and drugs. But for less severe policy violations, they're going to rely on users to report such posts first before taking action. We're going to see a lot more political content. Apparently, a few years ago, they started to suppress political content because they were receiving feedback that people didn't want to see it as much. But that's going to be back. One of the main things that they are going to do away with that I want to dive into today is their plans to get rid of fact-checking. They have a plan that they are going to get rid of third-party fact checkers and replace them with something called community notes. If you are still on X, that is something that has been implemented on X since our supervillain Elon Musk took over the company. And the problem with community notes, though, is they can be flawed as well. Now, anyone can sign up to be a part of this group of people that will provide these notes, but they can be used to spread false information as well. According to Business Insider, data shows about 96% of fact-checking notes contributed by community notes did not end up being posted for the public. Typically, X users could only see 8.5% of total notes that have been contributed by participating users. So you sign up to be a part of this program or whatever, to be a part of this community. And I'm guessing they send out certain posts, I'm guessing, or it's just posts that you see pop up on your feed and you're able to add these notes. And not just because you add a note, will it be public for everyone to see? Apparently, other people in the community have to vote on these notes. In order for a community note to see the light of day, this is pertaining to X, which will likely be the same way it's going to pertain to Meta because he's taken a page out of Elon's book. They're going to rely on ratings of other community note users. They evaluate whether those notes cite high quality sources, are easy to understand, and provide important context. If they get enough ratings, they're then displayed publicly. And that's not the only barricade that the notes got to get through before they see the light of day in public. It also has to be generally accepted by a consensus of people across the political spectrum, because everything is political these days. That means people on the left and the right have to agree that that note should appear. And when you're dealing with an increasingly partisan community of people and environment, you can only imagine how achieving that consensus is going to be almost impossible. And that's the reason why only 8.5% of total notes end up being posted on these posts. Yo Rolf, he's the former head of trust and safety at Twitter. He has echoed the weaknesses of community notes. He said he thinks it's a failure. He said, I think community notes is an interesting concept. I think that it has some areas where it's successful. I think we're seeing some interesting applications of the product, but there are many other areas where it's not a robust solution for harm mitigation. One flawed example I want to point out regarding these community notes is a note that I read was attached to a CNN tweet. CNN had written, Black fathers are often portrayed as absent or distant, but that isn't what most people experience, according to both data and Black dads themselves. The tweet said, such biased portrayals are often based on who is telling the story. Now, a community note was added to that said, as of 2021 data, 64% of Black or African-American children lived in single-parent families. And that's it. That's all this note said. That community note, which added no substance and included misleading data, was publicly added to a CNN tweet. You could say a racist note based on faulty data, and millions of people saw it. That note was taken down after people downvoted it, but it was still up for several days. So that is some of what we're going to have to deal with when it comes to these community notes. The fact that they have to go through these filters, but even those filters could be flawed, is going to be quite interesting, because we already are dealing with so much misinformation online. And when I watched this Mark Zuckerberg video and was listening to all of these changes, I saw pros and cons in all of it. It was like there was pros in the cons and cons in the pros, because if you're on social media and you're actively posting, you probably had your posts either worst case taken down or had got an alert about it, about fact checking or something of that nature. And for a lot of us, our posts aren't even violating what they are accusing us of violating. And that's because of the AI bots that they use to just sweep and look for code words or whatever have you, gets it wrong a lot of times. So in that regard, I think it's a good thing that they may be loosening up a little bit on that. But then at the same time, you're going to have every Joe and Jane who intentionally want to spread misinformation being able to do so without being checked. And it coincides with this new administration. 45, 47, and his team of misfits, it fits right in with what they're about. It's basically going to be like Truth Social 2.0, because that's the reason why 45 even wanted Truth Social created, because he was being held back from being able to just say any and everything on what was Twitter then, before Supervillain took it, and Facebook. So he created this Truth Social app to be able to say whatever he wants. So Mark Zuckerberg, being a avid supporter of Trump, is basically opening or rolling out the carpet for him and his many supporters who likes to spread misinformation. He's giving them the green light to be able to do that unchecked, maybe with a note or two attached to a post, maybe. And it's unfortunate because we use these apps a lot, and you want to be able to have some sort of security in place. Now, granted, they probably were a little too strict, and maybe the solution should have been to hire actual people versus using bots instead of just doing away with it altogether. But that's where we are right now. I myself, I want to start to tap into some of these other apps. Me particularly, I want to tap into more of the Black-owned apps. I spoke about a few of them a few weeks ago, but Fanbase, Spill, I think their Instagram page is Spill Mob. These are apps that operate similar to Instagram and X, but they are Black-owned, and they have some safeguards in place to not allow misinformation to just spread. That's what I want to do personally. And anybody listening, if you happen to be a Black person as well, I suggest that you do the same thing, because these companies that are benefiting from us, everyone, but not having us in mind when making these policy changes or supporting candidates that don't have our best interests, they shouldn't be benefiting from our content at the end of the day. We make Meta what it is. As a whole, people, I want to eventually get off of these apps. A lot of people built networks on these apps already. They built community on these apps already. So it's not as easy as just like deleting and moving on. You got to try to migrate content, followers, whatever over. So that's where I'm at with it. But it is definitely disappointing to be on these Meta apps while they're making changes that are going to be harmful for a lot of us. That's it on that. What else? Moving on. Last but not least, TikTok is set to be banned officially on January 19th, but they have tried one last ditch effort to get the ban ruling overturned, and that's by taking it to the Supreme Court. So over the weekend, the Supreme Court has heard arguments, and will they or won't they overturn the decision? Is right now, it seems from what I'm reading, they're leaning more towards upholding the ban, which would give us, at this point, less than a week to for TikTok to be banned. This is going to be unprecedented as far as I'm concerned. I don't recall ever there being an app that was banned, an app as popular as TikTok that has been banned. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. If you're unfamiliar, the initial reasoning behind all of this was security concerns, according to the US government. Seeing as ByteDance, who is the parent company for TikTok, is a Chinese company. And they are accusing them of potentially using the data from users to spy or even pushing certain content to us in America that they're not pushing in other countries or whatever. So that's where it kind of stemmed from. If it officially happens and TikTok is officially banned, if you already have the app on your phone, you'll obviously still be able to access it. It's not just going to disappear. You'll actually still be able to use the app. But what you won't be able to do is update the app in the future. App stores, Google Play, the Apple Store won't provide the app anymore. And of course, over time, you not being able to update an app, it will become buggy after a while and it'll start acting up, and eventually you'll probably just want to stop using it altogether at that point anyway. So someone was asking me, do I think it's going to actually happen? And at this point, I feel like, yeah, unfortunately, I feel like it is going to officially happen. I got some friends who are lovers of TikTok. I more in the recent months took a real liking to TikTok. When I first had it or downloaded the app and signed up, I wasn't using it as much, but I like TikTok. I actually like TikTok more than I like Instagram and Facebook. And it's because of the algorithm, more so comparing it to Instagram. I feel like the algorithm is so tainted over there where you can have thousands of followers and post a reel or a video and it only get less than 100 views. And it's like, why is that? But on TikTok, on the other hand, their algorithm don't seem tainted. So when you post something, you see like real-time viewership. It seems to match, at least for the most part, your following count. And they show it to other people fairly, it seems, that may not even be following you. There are easy ways and quick ways to make money over there. So for those reasons, I like TikTok a lot. And I have some friends who are really solely on TikTok, spend a lot of their time on TikTok. And they are saying that once the TikTok ban happens, that's it for them. They're saying they're not even going back to social. They're not even going to Instagram or Facebook. They're just going to be done with social media altogether. I'm sure there's a lot of people that's echoing that same sentiment. Someone said, yeah, right. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I think that is going to conclude what's hot in the blogs for this week. Thank you for watching. If you rock with your boy, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, it's called Holliewood and Friends, which means I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on the topics I just discussed. I appreciate you. New episodes every Monday night. Until next time, deuces.